Good morning. It is Tuesday the 19th of May and we're out here checking on the corn that got frosted about a week ago. Actually would have been last Monday morning, so about 8 days since it was frosted and a week since I had the camera out here before. You might notice that the ground is fairly wet looking, dark colored. It rained about 1 6/10 on Saturday evening, Saturday overnight. And the forecast was for it to be sunny and windy kind of yesterday and today, or maybe Sunday and yesterday. Anyway, it seems the sun has barely shone. It rained some more yesterday, or drizzled at least. It never really showed up on the radar, I don't think. But we've got weeds coming. This field isn't really too bad weed pressure wise, but definitely have stuff that I want to get sprayed sooner than later. A lot of this stuff is probably water hemp. It could be another pigweed species, but usually water hemp is what we have the most pressure from. There's probably ways that you can tell, but I'm not good enough on the stuff to distinguish at this growth stage what's what. But a lot of them, as smaller ones, have purple undersides, so I think that's a water hemp. I don't know. Water hemp's just a variant of a pigweed, but a fairly prolific one. So here's one spot where we had some that was frosted. So we had 3 to the east here that we had looked at before. So you can tell stuff's coming out half decent. However, there are several plants where you have leaves with the dead tissue sort of binding stuff up. I mean, I think they're pushing new tissue, and hopefully the next leaf will be able to get out of there. But would like that to, be open rather than twisted. And I'm going to leave these alone so that I don't disturb them, since I have them marked sort of as a test case. It didn't look like any of the stuff that I had marked in this field, at least, had died. Although there are ones occasionally, so like that one looks like it's bound up pretty good. There's one here that looks pretty sickly. Looks like the dead tissue is sort of bound up underneath some residue on the ground. But things look better than they did. Most likely, since it isn't consistent in the field and isn't every plant, it's probably not going to be worth coming back on anything to try to replant. Just have to sort of hope for the best at this point. We'll walk over here to the bean field and see how things look there. Yeah, a little bit of mud on the shoes. These would have been the first planted beans, and they're coming up pretty decent, it seems like. I haven't even really looked at these since I was out here a week ago. I didn't really look closely yesterday, but they're mostly emerged, it seems like, and getting a lot of the upper leaves, the single leaves developed. It's been fairly cold and not really supposed to get as warm as they were talking in the short term, I don't think. So we really need some heat to get things growing well, but at least we have stuff out of the ground for the most part, I think. Probably going to try to haul some corn today. We haven't taken anything out of that 36-foot middle bin, so we'd like to get at least a few loads pulled out of there and kind of get some of the fines hauled to town, because normally those grain spreaders dump a lot of fines in the center just because they don't throw very well towards the outer side of the bin. Yeah, so here's kind of what we got weed wise. A lot of pigweed species, a little bit of grass. I saw some morning glory with the kind of heart-shaped leaves. Doesn't look like a very healthy morning glory. It's yellower than the corn. I think that's a lamb's corner based on the fuzziness. But anyway, I'm going to try to haul some corn, hopefully, if I can get the auger and everything set up and get to town without getting the truck too dirty. I think the roads looked pretty wet earlier this morning, but I'm hoping that with the wind and breeze at least, that'll either soak in or dry off a little bit, so we're not slinging up mud. And probably, since nobody else can be doing any field work right now either, there's going to be a huge line at the ethanol plant. But we'll just deal with whatever the situation is, probably, because there's not much else that I can do either. It's Tuesday afternoon. This is the third load going to the ethanol plant. It'll be the last one today because they're only open until 4 o'clock. But things are going fairly smoothly so far. The corn seems to be dry, maybe a little over dry, but such is life. At least we're getting something done. I got that load emptied out at the ethanol plant, and we're back. I'm gonna go ahead and load up so that I'm ready for tomorrow. Looking to see how I did. Since it's wet, I have to back in, and getting into the driveway is a blind corner, so that's fun. That basically means you're turning the truck off the passenger side so you can't see where the trailer is. So we're trying to get lined up in the center so we're not bouncing corn off these straps, and also we're not gonna hit the aluminum bows because that'll bounce corn out also. So I think I'm okay on the straps. I may have to pull up just a little bit, but we'll try it and see how it goes. Gotta get my timer started so I tell how much we're putting in each load. Probably hitting the bow. Oh, the strap. Need to pull up. Normally do 2 piles in the front hopper and then do the back hopper kind of based on time and to some extent the air gauge for the airbags on the trailer. We can kind of tell how much weight we have on the back end based on the air pressure and the air suspension basically. So you can see right now we're about 26 pounds to maintain our ride height. You can, when we unload at the ethanol plant, we'll dump the air so we don't distend those airbags. But as this gets full, it'll be up probably around 60 or a little more. With the coronavirus stuff, normally we would be limited to 80,000 pounds gross total weight for the truck and the cargo. With this rig or with any 18-wheeler of adequate length. Since the coronavirus stuff is going on, they have 12.5% overage, which allows you to do up to 90,000 with $80,000 or 80,000 pound license. So we can haul a little bit more right now. We're not running real heavy because this truck doesn't have the hugest engine. So we're not running 90 for sure, but we're running a little more than 80 like we normally would. All right, we're getting there. The tractor idle for just a little bit to cool down some. So if my math was right, we should be just over 1,000 bushels, which would put us at about 83,000. We're right at 60 on the gauge, just over. and we should be full-ish, but not totally packed full. It'll work. We definitely could fit a little bit more on there, but I'm figuring probably I'm gonna have to make my loads come out to fill my contract unless I sell some more in the short term. So we'll go with this for the time being, and then sort of adjust on the last loads tomorrow or whenever we haul them. The sun hasn't really shined today, so I don't know how much it's dried off. The roads are dry, but nothing else seems to be. We're gonna go check the fields here in a bit and assess the situation a little bit. Might be able to do a little bit of spraying with a four-wheeler or hand sprayer or something. All this was super sticky earlier today, so it's definitely dried off some. But I don't know, we'll see how things look. I'm hoping that I'll be able to spray some either late tomorrow late tomorrow or Thursday, because it sounds like it's supposed to rain some more Friday, and we'd really like to get all or at least some of the corn ground sprayed before the next round of showers. Forecast has been kind of a moving target, it seems, lately, so we'll see. But I think we're probably in an okay spot, so I'm just going to turn this off. Probably don't need the differential locked at the moment. Turn off the air to the trailer. Parking brake is already set. And we're shut down. Also, should turn off our rear view camera. This was one of Dad's brainchilds, to be able to kind of see the top of the trailer to line up. I don't know if it's exactly high enough resolution to help a lot, but it's there, so. Alright, we're doing some spot spraying with the four-wheeler. Just touching up a few spots where I had skips, where I didn't overlap enough on the booms or didn't get turned back in quite tight enough. Spraying soybean burn down and killing the rye. This is my sort of test strip where the boom section didn't come on, and then I just left it sort of as a test. So it looks like, even though it was really calm that day, the rye that's left definitely shows some herbicide damage. Especially, it seems like the left side of this in particular. What I'm going to do, though, is basically put flags on the corners so that I can keep an eye on this spot in particular, and then I'm just going to use the broadcast nozzle on the back of that and should be able to make a pass down and a pass back. The soybeans are sort of just emerging. It seems like I can drive across them without breaking anything off. It wasn't particularly warm today, so I was a little bit concerned about that, but I did stop a couple spots, and it seemed like the stems were pliable enough that they were getting kind of mashed down into the dirt, but they should come back. So I'm going to hit this with Roundup, or stick some flags in it, hit it with Roundup, and then touch up a few other spots. You can see there's a strip up there. So I'm over on this kind of west farm where we had some terraces, and the new waterway is right down here. It's dark enough out, it's hard to see on the screen. Down there anyway. We'll go down there in a bit. But I was going to do a quick video here just along the end rows. So this didn't get sprayed. So you can see there's tons of grass, broadleaves, looks like ragweed, probably this is what most of the big stuff is here. And a lot of it. If you look down closer, that's actually clover. There's like some pigweed or water hemp of some sort. That might be pennycress. Then if we go across this waterway, this is the line of where what I got sprayed and what I didn't. And if you ignore that there's a little bit of grass right here on the edge where I didn't get the section turned on quite soon enough, but probably I'll do a pass along the waterway when I finish this up. But we've got clean field. So that's what we wanted to see. That basically means we got everything killed that was there, and that the pre-emerge chemicals are doing their job of keeping new weeds from coming up with the rain that we've had since then. I don't even see any little stuff. So that's good to see. I just wish that I'd gotten more sprayed that day. So we're down in the new waterway now. I was a little concerned, especially with how much wetter it is over here than at Mom and Dad's, that there might have been some significant damage on our waterway, but it actually looks like it's held up pretty well. There's a little bit of washing kind of where the ditches were along the sides of this erosion mat, but not really much worse than it was. And the spots where we put the erosion control mat in, where it started to wash probably a month and a half ago now, seemed to have held pretty well. There was a little bit of a spot kind of up at the top end of this new section that had washed a little bit, but definitely not bad. I wouldn't say that we've won the war yet, but I think we're surviving some key battles, so that's good news. Just need to get some freaking sunshine so that this grass will take off, because even it looks yellow. But if you can hear the gurgling, there's a tile outlet, which I was going to show you, but it maybe is back behind the weeds. There was a couple of them over here, actually. I guess you can see there's the new one, so that's like a 10-inch outlet there, which right now it basically just has one terrace and some seep lines on it, so not too much water coming through there. Mostly that's big so that we have capacity to add some stuff later. The other one, it's right back in there, but I can't see where the water is falling. It looks like it did cut back a little bit, kind of where it fell off the edge here. Although that's probably just going to be the way it is, unfortunately. If we can kind of hold back here where we've got the erosion control matting, that would definitely help the situation. I'm not going to make any promises, but we've got grass reasonably well established, and there's kind of plastic mesh in this stuff. So I'm hoping that that'll be enough. It looks like there's a spot here where it's kind of pushed some dirt up underneath a little bit. But again, if we can get some sunshine and warm, dry weather, dry-ish at least, if we can get some decent weather before we have any huge rains, that'll definitely help the situation a lot. Good morning. It's Wednesday, May 20th, and I'm getting ready to take this truckload of corn to the ethanol plant. Not getting a real early start this morning. It was super foggy earlier, and maybe it's been drizzling some also. So kind of waited for things to clear off a little bit. Was hoping to be able to spray this afternoon. Not sure if that's going to happen. I hope so, but we'll have to see how things look. Apparently I didn't wait long enough, because I made it less than a mile from the farm and didn't turn on the wipers. It's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and this is what we're working with. Doesn't look like great spraying weather, and it's actually darker off to the north there that you can't exactly see through the trees. I got everything hauled to the ethanol plant that I had booked, contracted for corn for the short term. So I think I'm going to wait and see and hope the price goes up a little bit before we haul any more. Might haul some beans sometime, kind of see what happens, I guess. So would like to try to spray some this afternoon, but that seems like kind of a long shot. I didn't have to turn the windshield wipers on coming back with the last load, but there was some precipitation on the windshield within a mile of the farm here. And there hasn't been very much sunshine today. It has shown a little bit, and it's actually fairly dry on top right here, but the fields that I drove by with the semi at least seemed like the low spots looked pretty wet. We're gonna jump in the four-wheeler and go check things out and see what we find, and then try to figure out a game plan. Go see what we find. Looks pretty wet. It's actually firmer than you might think, but definitely wet. full sprayer would leave tracks, maybe ruts. I might be able to get across it without getting stuck, but doesn't seem like a good idea. Where I really would like to spray is actually on the other side of this grass lane. And I'll kind of scope some things out and see how it looks over here. It's actually not as bad. That was kind of a low spot, so that's probably the wettest spot in that field, I would guess. But some of this, there used to be pasture here, and has a little bit more weed pressure than a lot of places or a lot of areas that have been farmed for a long period of time. Kind of this hillside and some of the stuff up in here. I actually hit some of this with Roundup when I sprayed off the rye that I had on the corn ground, and that might be the difference between where there isn't weeds down by the waterway and where there is weeds up in the middle there. Well, this looks definitely like a no-go. I'm not even going to get off of the four-wheeler because I'm going to get myself all muddy. I'm not cutting ruts at the moment, but the last hill was a little bit dicey getting across. And you can see the bottom of that terrace is shiny, which means it's really wet. So not going through there with a sprayer for a while. Hey, there's almost a little bit of sunshine. I mean, not sunshine, but not dense clouds anyway. So don't think we're spraying today. Try to do some odds and ends and see what tomorrow brings. So I crossed the road, and I'm probably 1/8 of a mile, maybe less than that, from where I took the last video. And here it actually seems pretty dry, even on the Indros where I did some tillage. It's maybe a little wet to do today, but I think this would go tomorrow, as long as we don't have more drizzle and fog and dew and everything else like we did today. So maybe there's hope that I'll get something done. And now I'm just over the hill, and it's pretty wet here. This is kind of the area where most of this field, or a lot of this field, kind of drains through, and it is wetter here. We have a nice lush carpet of water hemp or pigweed of some sort. So it'd be good to get this sprayed ASAP. Again, I think it'll go tomorrow. It's a little bit sticky, but I can get across it, I think.